Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Nightmares podcast. This is Zachary Smith. I'd like to introduce these two dorks right here who are giggling like schoolgirls for reasons I do not understand.
It was so dark and ominous. Hello.
And then it wasn't.
And then it wasn't. Yeah.
Oh, hi!
Oh boy, kids. This is Mark Conway, fellow executive producer of Living Nightmares. Nice to see everybody.
This is Brandon Rakowski, also executive producer and co-creator of Living Nightmares.
He's Brandon. That's all you need to know.
I'm Brandon.
Yes, indeed.
And Brandon am I.
I don't know.
I'm confused.
I need an adult! Alright.
We're barely adults, so there's that.
Yeah, no, fair point.
Yeah,
None of
I
us-
mean, when I'm the oldest and most mature one, we're in trouble.
I don't know if I'd say most mature. Maybe oldest.
I got one response to that. We're all fucked.
Yeah.
So, all right, Zach, we got a bit of an agenda to accomplish. Let's get it cracking.
Yeah, absolutely. So today we're going to talk about body horror, which, that's super sexy. Yeah.
Oh, God. It's really not at all.
It depends on your definition of sexy, all right? If you like...
Oh, God.
We'll get into that in a bit. We have Mark's question of the day, because everybody looks forward to that, because it's awesome.
Indeed.
On our end, we're going to talk about film permits and location scouting and how much of a pain in the ass it is.
It so much is.
And then me and Mark saw Us the other day, so we're going to talk about that because it was really friggin' awesome. So, yeah.
It was.
And then,
Told you guys.
And what I'll do is real quick, though, gentlemen, is I'll just recap two things I spotted in horror movie news. It'll be nice and quick and everything else. Two articles, and actually I may want to dedicate an entire podcast to one of these articles. And I know a lot of people will roll their eyes, but there is something to be said about it, is how the Blair Witch Project changed the marketing of horror and also changed the ideology of horror into a different thing. This whole found footage, movement that it started, for better or for worse, it did change the face of horror for a very, very long time. We got a lot of things out of it, good and bad, depending on your perspective.
I would say more bad than good, but I mean...
That can be said for any genre, really.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Absolutely. But it definitely changed it. I'll definitely post the article at the bottom for anybody to like. And actually, put a comment below and let us know if you want us to talk about it, because we'll devote an entire podcast to talking about the found footage genre, and then we'll go from there. We'll use that as one of the topics because that's what we're doing. We're going through genre.
Honestly, I like the idea of maybe dedicating a podcast to the other article you mentioned.
Yeah. Well, you know what though, and I'll definitely do this too. This is actually, I just picked this up from the news, which is pretty.
Literally 2 minutes before we started recording.
Well,
we didn't think of any news, so we're just like, all right, let's half-ass it. What's on our phones today?
Actually, I really like this article and everything else. It's actually based in a book called "Screaming for Pleasure." The title of the article is "Screaming for Pleasure Explores the Health Benefits of Horror Movies." And they're actually talking about, in the article, lowering blood pressure, releasing stress, and actually burning calories, of all things.
See? Watching horror movies helps you lose weight, folks.
Yeah, but you know what, though? There's something to be said about that, though. Why do we go on roller coasters? Why do we watch scary movies? Why do we want to be in a situation? I was watching The Sopranos actually yesterday, and they actually answered this. Oddly enough, they answered this question.
Really? You were watching The Sopranos yesterday?
Shut up.
If you could only see the outfit he was wearing right now.
Oh, I hate you both right now. Anyway.
How are you doing?
It's not like it's insulting to my whole family. Anyway.
Now we're just insulting you.
Yeah.
We're cool with the rest of your family.
Yeah, we love them. They're great.
Yeah, you want to say that on a recording. This is also a deposition. Anyway,
Which I do record those.
Indeed. So, but the idea that we can experience fear without consequence is very appealing to human beings. Like, us watching scary movies instead of being in a terrifying situation like we do, our series on, there's no consequences for anybody, but they get to experience the thrill. So you get that, you get to have your cake and eat it too, essentially. You get to experience that adrenaline rush, but you don't have the fear of death because you're not, you're in a movie theater and what you're watching is not real. So there's something to be said about that type of feeling, and and being invested in in a roller coaster. So there are some health benefits. Obviously, it worked out because we're all fans of that feeling. I'm assuming, Zach, that's probably the reason why you've been watching horror movies since you were 2.
Giggity.
Yeah. So I mean, so please jump in, guys. Thoughts on that?
Awesome.
Thanks for that. Thanks for leaving me hanging.
I think you covered it pretty well.
There's not much more to be said, and I was the one who suggested making a whole podcast on it. I'm sure there's more to talk about. We just can't think of anything off the top of our head right now because we literally just found this about
2 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it's burning calories, and that would explain why, especially with my diet, why I don't weigh 400 pounds.
Yeah, you weigh next to nothing.
Yeah.
So there's that.
A feather is heavier than me.
So yeah, Brandon watches a lot of horror.
I watch a lot of horror, and yesterday I watched a lot of the type of horror we'll be talking about today. Body horror.
He makes it sound bad, but it wasn't. It was a very good time.
So, but and honestly, the only other really big news in horror was about Stranger Things, but nobody here watches Stranger Things.
I watch Stranger Things.
So, I mean, the new season's coming out and everything.
I know, it's July 4th.
I mean, what do you?
Yeah, we're gonna be doing something else on July 4th. Thank you.
Yeah, Montrose Beach. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
As we watch everybody blow themselves up again.
Thank you for telling everybody where we'll be. Should we have the Nightmares podcast table there?
Yeah, why not? All 12 people can go and hang out. We're great. Doing great. All our fans.
All 20 subscribers.
A live Nightmares podcast of Montrose Beach, July 4th, as we dodge out of the way of everybody's fireworks.
It's pandemonium over here!
Oh my god. It's super. It really is super great. And for all those people that are not in Chicago, if you think that your city doesn't give a fuck, our city really doesn't give a fuck. We do this shit for fun. Like, we're not even being serious about anything. We just do this shit for fun.
I saw a guy launching rockets at somebody else's van.
Dude, we all had to make a trip to the bathroom. We had to run along trenches to dodge missiles. It was awesome.
So opposed to everybody else who actually goes and watch horror movies with a thrill with no consequence, we have both. We have fear. We have the intensity of fear and adrenaline and consequences. It's great. It's super great. It's super great. I still love this town. I really do.
There's no better town in the world.
So, all right. So, getting back to everything. I know that Brandon's itching to talk about some body horror, considering how much he's had to watch in the last.
Yeah.
I think a year was removed from Brandon's life. I think he's truly given up on anything in humanity. And
I think you've given up on humanity after what I showed you.
Oh God, I watched only 15 minutes of it. It was the most.
We'll cover that later.
It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life.
We have a lot to talk about with that movie. Zack has a story with that movie. I have a little story with that movie.
Well, we might as well get into the body horror right now because that's going to be the bulk of this show. Yeah. We better get going.
All right, so let's actually start with a comic book. What I wanted to talk about last week, the reason why we're talking about body horror.
Totally jumped over.
We'll save the movies for a little later because there's no shortage of stuff to talk about with this genre, especially with us. But yeah, a couple weeks ago I was researching best horror comics of 2018, and there's this one 4-issue miniseries that was like consistently listed in the top 5, and it was being compared to like the works of David Cronenberg, and I was looking at the covers, and they're really evocative covers. It's not porn, Zach.
With a title like that, you cannot tell me it's not porn.
Despite what the covers look like.
We literally thought it was porn for like a week.
It's not.
What's the title?
So the title is "Come Into Me," which I know doesn't
You know what? Hold on. You know what? Please put comments. And let me explain this from our perspective. Zach lives here. I come over here constantly and everything else. With no context, we saw these comic books hanging out in the living room, and it literally says, "Come inside me."
Into me.
Come into. That's even worse. Come into me, and everything else. And then we look at this. Hey, Brandon, what's up with this? And his first response is, "Oh, it's not porn." The fuck am I supposed to think?
Like, bullshit. This is the type of porn I would watch if it existed.
Apparently it does.
Mark, what would you like to describe some of the covers for our listening audience?
I would love to describe this. So we have a shirtless man, and his face is essentially blacked out, and he has an organic tube coming from the back of his neck, the start of his spine, going all the way down to some organic creature that I'm assuming is sucking it out. And then also there's a woman that is facing the opposite direction, and she is also shirtless. I'm assuming completely naked because she's got a towel covering her, and she also has the same organic thing sticking out of her neck.
I just want to point out, every time he says organic, just picture something red, squishy, and fleshy. Not organic in the sense of,
kind of like a giant sponge made of flesh.
Pretty much.
Sure, just don't think kale when you think organic or whatever the hell it is.
All of this, it's very hard to be convinced that it isn't some type of porn. So
at some point I'm going to read it, and I feel like I'm going to walk out of there saying, "This is porn."
It's not. It really starts off as like a sci-fi drama, and then by the end of it, it's just all-out body horror. And I'll describe what the first issue is about because it's actually really interesting. So it takes place in this kind of not too distant future, and there's this tech genius who's created this invention that allows two minds to share the same body. Basically, the series is like a comment about how everybody's sharing their lives on social media and all that. And so it's truly two people are sharing literally everything with one another. Your memories.
I certainly saw quite a bit of that about 20 minutes ago. There's a lot of people sharing a lot of things.
Which we'll talk about that movie. We'll talk about that movie next because I know you want to talk about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this movie leaves major impressions on people. One person in particular.
We'll get to that. But yeah, so
big shout out to Wes.
I love Wes. But anyway, so there's this tech genius. He creates this machine, this essentially organic machine that allows two minds to share the same body. It's going through trials at the beginning of the story, and those trials on human subjects, mind you. And let's just say there's some blood in the first couple pages.
Yeah, don't say.
Oh yeah.
Blood and body horror? What? That's crazy talk.
But yeah, so basically the way this machine works, and you described it on the front cover, is there are these two tubes that hook into your spinal cord, your brainstem, essentially. And so stuff goes wrong, investors are kind of backing out. But then this woman shows up to his office, and she says, "I will pay you $50,000 if you let me go through the trials." And he says, "No, the reason why he's created this machine is to help with like mental illnesses and stuff. It's not meant to be like a social thing. It's meant to help. It's meant to be therapeutic."
Oh, okay.
But he's running out of money, and she offers him $50,000. So he says, "Okay, I'll let you do it on the condition of I'm the person that you hook into, essentially."
All right.
So they just rush into that, and so it's her mind goes into his body, and they both have access to all their memories and everything, and they're like talking to each other in thoughts, and it's actually really cool because I think it was like blue thought bubbles were him, pink thought bubbles were her, and there's like, okay, these are the memories that are off limits to you, so on and so forth. Well, what she didn't tell him was she was actually suffering through ovarian cancer at this time, and while her mind is in his body, her body actually dies. So her mind is now stuck in his body, and that's essentially the end of the first issue, and it just spirals out of there. So it goes into what the long-term effects are of two minds sharing the same body. Spoiler alert, not good.
Well, no shit.
This is why you don't come into people, ladies and gentlemen.
But yeah, it starts as like a sci-fi drama, and then by the end of it, it's just a really emotionally exhausting body horror. Like you were talking to me earlier before we started this, like with body horror, like it's like, what's the point? It's just something to show something. But no, there is a point to this.
Okay.
And it's like, it's one of those stories that it's kind of about everything. Like it's about what happens when you invite the wrong person into your life, essentially. And it's just, and like what a person will do just to survive, even at the cost of their own body. And it's really just emotionally resonant in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. Like there's one line in particular that has really stood out to me in the last issue, where she's talking about how healthy people don't feel anything, but if you're somebody who has even just one part of your body that doesn't quite work, then your entire body is just screaming all the time. And it's just the way it's presented it's a very unforgettable comic book. If anything, I think it needed more than just 4 issues to really delve into all the...
So it just stopped at 4 issues?
It's just a 4-issue miniseries. It's a very quick read. Like, I read through all 4 of them in maybe an hour.
Wow. There's something to be respected about that. Something that knows that it's short and sweet. I like that.
Yeah.
There's too many stories these days that like to branch out and just take over more than it can chew.
But yeah, I think there were a lot of other things in there that it could have explored more. Like it's one of those things where if somebody were to adapt it into a movie, they would know what parts they could expand on. Really, if anything, I think it would have fared better as just a full graphic novel, because like when you're doing like single issues, you do have a certain number of pages you have to be confined to. And I think just having a little more space would have just made it a lot fuller experience, but as is, it is a very unforgettable reading experience.
Nice.
And I pretty much scoured all of our comic book shops in Chicago trying to find these issues, and yeah, it was a really tough find, but I finally found all 4 of them at Chicago Comics, like right off the Belmont stop. And I even told, and because they have that one horror shelf, I was like, okay, if I've looked in every other store, if any store's gonna have it, it's gonna be this. And yeah, they had like 2 copies of issues 1, 2, and 3, and just one copy left of issue 4, and it was like getting. Just, I even told the register clerk, I searched the entire city for these, and she just kind of looked at me like, okay.
Yeah, with a cover like that, I don't blame
My search is over.
It's just like, boy, I wonder what your search history looks like.
No one will know because I deleted it. Anyway.
But yeah, I'd highly recommend it. It's called Come Into Me.
I'm sorry, man.
4 issues. It's a quick read. If you're able to find them, I highly recommend it. Nice. If you like David Cronenberg stuff, you'll like it. If you like sci-fi horror, you'll like it. Yeah, it's one of those stories. It's about everything, and it's it could have been a bit fuller, but it did not. But that did not diminish the impact at the end of it.
Well, something to be said, like Zack was saying, and everything else is sometimes it's better to leave before you're supposed to leave than overstaying your welcome.
Yeah,
there really is something to be said about that. So. Yeah, I'm definitely in agreement on that. I know you've been really itching to talk about it. Nevertheless, I saw it on there.
It was good. Like it's.
Well, yeah, we always want to support shit that's good.
Yeah, and it's not put out by one of the big publishers. It's put out by Black Mask, which I've never even heard of them before. This one,
news to me,
but it's a real winner.
Nice. Yeah, everybody check it out. Do you have a link on Amazon where they can find it?
There is a link to the trade paperback, but what's weird is it says it's out, but it also says ships in 1 to 2 months.
Hey, some links better than others.
At least it'll have all the information about it right there.
Cool.
Ladies and gentlemen, the comic is called Come Into Me. Just search it on Google, and I'm sure you're gonna find it. First search. You're going to be golden.
Yeah.
Make sure Safe Search is off, because it's a horror thing.
So in all seriousness, folks, I'll have Brandon put a few secure links at the bottom of this video, some real ones, so we can actually find the real comic and everything else. And obviously support good art. We're all about it.
And actually the artwork is amazing. Like the way the artist draws, like the memories, it's kind of like this blurry haze. Like it really represents what memories are really well.
Nice.
And it ranges from very beautiful to very haunting, and it's
nice.
Yeah.
Gotta love that. No, it's super important. Like I said, support art, support entertainment and everything else, especially good shit and everything else. Get rid of the bad stuff, enjoy the good stuff.
Yes, because there are way more publishers and comic book brands out there than Marvel and DC. I
promise. You know what? Do yourself a favor, folks. Hang out in a comic book shop. You never know what we're gonna learn.
A lot of great stories, even especially in the basements for 50-cent comics.
And that is not a joke. That is literally a basement in the comic book store and everything else for 50 cents comics. By the way, the advertisements on the back are the best parts. You get to find out how old those comics really are. I've seen some ads for I've seen some cigarette ads. I've seen some Jean-Claude Van Damme movies.
Hey, here's a Street Fighter movie advertisement.
There was that one that we found where on the back it was an ad for the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Wow.
That was a good one.
We all know how that turned out.
Yep.
Amazing. Anyway, moving on.
Hey, the Yoshi puppet is amazing.
Does it?
Yeah.
And visual effects wise, yes, it actually was.
Yeah, actually there were crew members of Jurassic Park who actually stopped by the set because they were legitimately impressed by the Yoshi puppet.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So there are good things that came out of that movie, other than a bunch of jokes.
All right, now we're gonna talk about.
Now we gotta talk about the slug in the room.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Okay, so in preparation for today's topic, today I rewatched a little movie called Society. Now, what Society is about, it's about this suburban high school student. Rich family, lives in a rich neighborhood, but he feels like he doesn't quite fit in. His parents have him see a therapist where he talks about, I was like, I just don't feel like I belong here. Just something seems off about the people in this neighborhood. And there's this other kid who believes there's some sort of conspiracy going on. And I'll let everyone find the movie for themselves, because you just have to see it to believe it.
Yes, you do.
It was directed by Brian Yuzna, who is probably most famous for being like the producer for Reanimator, and it basically just hurtles towards this climax.
Sure.
Mark, do you want to describe what?
I wish I could.
So the ending, spoiler alert for a more than 20-year-old movie at this point. I don't know. I think statute of limitations.
I think the statute of limitations for viewing the movie will never run out. But,
you know what? Yeah, we can talk about it, because we can talk about it all we want, but our words will never do justice.
Oh God, no.
What it actually looks like.
No. First of all, let's say this right off the bat and everything else. It is very much 80s effects.
Oh yes.
It's very much 80s effects.
So it's quality.
So
quality people.
Something funny about body humor and everything else.
Humor?
Body horror.
And humor.
And humor, but that's actually what as a Freudian slip. But that's exactly at first it's creepy. And then eventually, especially with this particular one, it goes way into bizarre and hilarious and
Rated
ridiculous.
R for bizarre sexuality.
Oh my God.
And with the kind of Blu-ray cover it had, I don't know why I expected that movie to be normal when I first watched it.
Okay, so essentially what happens is it turns out that
it's called the shunting.
Okay, so it turns out that these rich people are basically members of the Illuminati, I'm assuming. And
they're rich people.
They're rich people. And they are some kind of subhuman, supernatural species that literally sucks life out of people and everything else. Sucks everything. And essentially eats them and everything else. And then, I guess for a while, they become an homogeneous blob and and everything else, and while they suck the energy and all the body parts out of this human being, and then they eventually go back to where they were at. I really don't know what these things are.
I don't think anybody. They're rich people.
The
whole point of Brian Yuzna making the movie was he wanted to make the statement that rich people are essentially a whole other species.
Correct.
From everyone else.
Correct. That those people never understand us, and essentially he also wanted to make the point that rich people treat the common folk like food.
Yeah.
And lesser of a species than everything else. It's a very it can't get much more of a clearer point in a movie. Actually, I think that's the clearest point of a movie I have ever seen in my life. I have never been slapped with a metaphor so hard in my life till I saw this movie. The foldy rubbery hand that they use left out of the screen, and it said metaphor on the hand and slapped me with it in the face. That's what the fuck happened. So, and moving on from that ridiculous statement, it got so, at first it was horrifying, and I went, ugh.
And then as director, I believe it took 3 days to film that scene.
Oh yeah, your story's great.
And during that time of filming, the director taped a sign on the door to the soundstage that said, "Abandon all hope, ye who enter here." Which, with makeup effects done by a man named Screaming Mad George.
Although, you know what though, it's not the crazy. I mean, who's the guy who did the effects From Dusk Till Dawn? Sex Machine. I think his name is something Sex Machine, like that.
Tom Savini played Sex Machine in From Dusk Till Dawn.
I could have sworn that was actually a real nickname.
Did Tom Savini do any of the effects on that movie? It wouldn't surprise me.
I thought that was his nickname.
Wouldn't surprise me.
So anyway, well, Brendan's looking that up.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, From Dusk Till Dawn was the makeup effects for that one were the three guys of K&B.
So anyway, moving on. Again, it got to the point where it was ridiculous. And
at what point was that for you, Mark?
The point where the main character walked in and found his whole family and found his mother and his sister basically combined with each other, and then the sister's head came out the mom's vagina, and then the father literally pulled his head out of his own ass, and his face became his ass. And then I was like, I'm out now. I'm out.
No, that was not the point where you said you're out. That was the point where you said this has become ridiculous.
Oh, okay. When did I say I was out?
I
love it. I stuck with it after that. What the fuck's the matter with me? I kept going.
The point where you said that's it, I'm out was right after that, where it was literally just everybody became this mass.
Yeah, and I went, all right, I'm done.
The orgy called wrong, as I call it.
Oh god, it was terrible. I think
that thing took 19 puppeteers or something like that.
Yeah, that's it.
And then the main character got in a fist fight with some other guy, and he literally took his hand, put it up the villain's ass, and pulled him inside out. I'm not joking. That happens. That was a real fucking thing that happened. And then they ran out into the sunlight and everything else, and hopped in their '80s Jeep Cherokee and drove the fuck off into the sunrise. And I was almost expecting "Cruel Summer" by Bangarang or whatever the hell that name of band it is to come on while they drove away. I don't know. I don't know how much '80s cocaine it would take to get over that. But I'm assuming a lot.
Somebody called Jack Nicholson. I'm sure he has an answer.
No, it's Scarface cocaine. It's not Jack's cocaine. It's Scarface's cocaine. The big fucking mound. Enough to deal with 100 takes from Stanley Kubrick. Anyway, moving on. So, you know what's so funny though? I love talking about this, and I can talk about that fucking train wreck I just watched and everything else all night. But what I really want to hear, because I haven't heard this story, and I know they want to hear this, I want to hear about Wes.
So.
All right, hold on, real quick. Tell everybody who Wes is.
Zach, you've known him longer than I have.
Yeah, so Wes is a good buddy of ours and fellow co-worker, and
oftentimes my camera assistant on set.
Yeah, and also the best when it comes to reactions for many of things, especially weird, fucked up things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. Oh yeah, that's the part I forgot about this whole thing. It's very much like a warning to not go to orgies, because like it's the whole thing. They all get naked and they do this, and they get in some kind of oil, and that's how they become, these blobs.
I'm pretty sure that oil is being secreted out of their own bodies.
Sure, we'll go with that. Sure, sure. It looked, good God, it looked like a KNY convention. Like, it was so much lube going on. So much KY jelly. Oh my God. There was enough KY jelly to literally slick back a bunch of dudes' hairs. Like 80s thick hair. Just like fucking like Danny Zuko from Grease hair. Like, it was just bam. Like I was expecting some asshole to pull out a comb and be like, womp babadoo bop, womp bamboo.
Holy shit.
So that's why they hang out with me, because I'm hilarious. Anyway, so speaking of hilarious, I want to hear about.
So I invited Zach and Wes over, and of course this is October time. Horror movies aplenty.
It was Halloween. I just want to point that out.
It was Halloween Day?
It was Halloween. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was an excellent night.
Yeah, and it was actually that was right before my going away party for the ships.
No, this was before you got accepted to the ship. But you and I did have a gig the next day because we didn't sleep.
Oh, that was that night?
Yeah,
okay.
That was for that one kebab place that we.
Yeah. I wonder if they're still in business.
Oh, I assume so.
But anyway, so I invited Wes and Zach over to watch a horror movie. And I did not let them see the box art or anything. I just already had the Blu-ray in the player ready to go when they got there. And I just said, this is Society, late 80s, early 90s, depending on how you look at it. It was actually shot in 88, I believe. And I believe it was released in Europe that same year. But it didn't get released here in America until like 91, 92.
Wow.
Yeah.
A little disappointing, but oh well.
So it's kind of both a 1980s and a 1990s horror movie, depending on how.
We'll stick
depending on which release date you want to go by.
It's the story thematically is definitely a product of the 80s.
Yes,
that's
and,
all 80s.
I believe when it was in the Blu-ray version is the fully uncut, unrated version. When it was released in theaters, it got an R rating, and it was like 3 minutes shorter than what the Blu-ray has.
Okay.
I don't think 3 minutes would really do a whole lot of difference.
Not really.
I don't see how.
Not really.
I just want to know what parts they cut to make the difference.
But yeah, all I said was, you guys don't know what you're in store for. And then the movie started, and Zach, I'll let you take over here.
So I think it was like 5 minutes into the movie, we're watching it, and then out of nowhere...
When the main character's talking to his therapist. And actually, no, this would have been like 10, 15 minutes in the movie. Because it starts with him talking to his therapist.
Yeah.
And then he has that exchange with his sister at home, and this is where...
Yeah, so he has the exchange with his sister, and then out of nowhere, Wes goes, she's giving him the fuck me eyes!
Incest is a very strong theme in this movie.
And it's not that I didn't agree with him, but it really hit him hard. Like, it really creeped him out. And for the entire movie, everyone was just being weird like that. Like, everybody wanted to fuck this kid, family included. And he's like, what the fuck is going on? And he's really freaking out over this. And then we get to the ending, and he pretty much loses his shit.
Well, no, there's another line that he freaked out about when the kid's therapist asks him, so how's it going?
I don't remember that part.
Really?
Yeah.
The therapist asks him, how's it going? And the kid just casually says, oh, everything was going pretty good except for the incest part. And that just...
What?
Wes just went up the wall at just how casual that line was said.
I don't even know what to do with that. Like I don't even know what box to put that in. It's like I can't compartmentalize that in my brain. It hurts my brain. Like,
hey, how's everything going? Oh, everything's great. Well, besides the incest, but
my response would be like, I didn't see that part. I only saw like the last 15 minutes, the holy fuck scene.
You've seen enough.
I've seen enough and everything else. But if I was the therapist and he said that, it's like everything's going great except the incest. It's like this is why I don't fucking talk to people.
Which, just so you know, the therapist, he was the guy with the whole hand effect at the end. That was the kid's therapist.
Oh, the one guy who was trying to wrangle them and everything else?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot them. They literally had people, wrangling people. They had, leashes for people.
Yeah.
Oh, God. It's like something something you would find on the dark web, except, it's a movie, and that's real. Although
Red Room to the extreme.
Oh, God.
This is a movie that you watch and then you just show it to your friends without explanation.
It's like the 2 girls 1 cup phenomenon. It's that.
I wouldn't even put it in that category. There's a separate category for this one. I don't know where, but it's somewhere.
I remember when I showed one of my coworkers the uncut trailer for Evil Dead. The remake and everything else, and it was that one scene where she takes the reciprocating saw and cuts her tongue, and then makes out with a chick. I wish I recorded her reaction to it. It was fucking priceless. She literally I have the phone like this and everything else, and she's on the other side of me and everything else, and all of it. So then I hear her say, no, well, don't do that, no.
Speaking of split tongues, Zach, do you want to talk about the movie that Justin and I showed you last night?
Actually, I want to put a pin in that one for a minute. I want to talk about the Evil Dead remake and how it was probably the best movie-going experience I ever had.
Okay.
Oh, now I want to hear about this.
Yeah, so as you know, I get really giddy whenever I see, body mutilation and stuff like that, especially when it, the more realistic the gore effects, the more giddy I get, and the more happy I get.
Of course, it's a very normal reaction.
Yes, exactly.
Close to being horrified.
I was in the theater. I was with my 2 buddies, and I think 3 seats down were these group of girls, these teenagers. And that exact scene pops up where they start making out and the blood comes out of, she's bleeding into the other girl's mouth. I'm sitting there, and I'm giddy as, a little freaking schoolgirl and everything, and these girls turn and look at me with disgust, and I just look at them, and I give them the...
Oh. Well, I mean, he's not wrong. Yes, going to the movies with Zack is an interesting experience nonetheless. Although I've also seen pissed off Zack need a 20-minute rant after seeing a movie as well. I've seen that shit too. The Predator. The most recent Predator. So that happened too. So it could go either way. But
that whole movie was a great experience.
But passion's important, people. Passion's important. And you know what? And I'm sorry, something I definitely want everybody to realize, even people who aren't fans of horror and everything else. My sister's a makeup artist. I'm good friends with another makeup artist. I have a lot of friends who are FX artists and everything else. It takes a lot of work to do what they do, and they are some of the most passionate people that I've ever met when it comes to that type of stuff. I've acted on a lot of different horror sets and everything else, and some of those people are the best people I've ever known. And they usually follow a pretty strict stereotype, to be perfectly honest. All the dudes are big burly Viking guys who talk about metal and shit while they're stirring fucking plaster. Like, yeah, I saw Metallica back in '86. It was great. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. The same way Zack gets giddy about horror music, I get giddy about metal and everything else. I'm like, yeah, it was awesome. Dave Mustaine's a bussy, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Slayer! And then they go play a solo in the corner with the rest of the makeup effects. I don't know how they do it. They just do it. And then all the girls who do makeup effects are usually obsessed with Tim Burton in some way or another.
It's not a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing. It is not a bad thing at all. Just an observation. And you will talk to them a lot about Tim Burton, and then you also talk to them about Nightmare Before Christmas, which is technically not Tim Burton directed, but Tim Burton influenced.
We all just give that title to him.
Yeah, we didn't, I feel bad for the actual director.
Selleck?
Yeah, he never got any credit for that shit.
He really didn't.
Yeah, Tim Burton, but I directed it. No, I'm pretty sure Tim Burton directed that. I'm pretty sure Tim Burton directed that. That sucks for that dude. It really does.
His name's Henry Selick.
I'm sorry. Who?
And of course,
sorry.
I'm the only one that took the time to learn his name.
You're also the only one who liked the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory remake, if I remember correctly.
Oh.
It's not a bad movie.
It kind of is.
I enjoy it.
No. I don't know anybody who does. I don't
Except
even know why it was a thing.
It didn't really. Well, yeah. Spaceballs, the sequel, in a search for more money. Which is pretty much any sequel or remake. Anyway, going back to what I was saying though, these people, I know that obviously these effects sometimes for other people are disturbing. Not everybody is Zack. Not everybody's me. Not everybody's Brian. But there's a lot of work that goes into that. A lot of money that goes into it. A lot of patience that goes into it. So when you see a horror movie next time and everything else, really appreciate that. I know that being on a horror movie set has been a great experience for me as an actor, and then also now as an executive producer. So please support local horror movies. Please support national horror movies. Especially if they're good. Actually just only if they're good. So, but anyway, yeah, going back to that. Talk about the movie you're going to talk about. Sorry, you got a little rant there.
Yeah, American Mary, was it?
Yes, American Mary.
That movie was... I expected more from it considering what it was about.
Okay.
But it really didn't provide...
Do you want to tell us what it was about?
So, surgeon going through med school, pretty much, she's down on her luck and everything like that. Does some, I guess, black market surgeries for body modification.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And about a quarter, after she does her first 2 modifications, her professor, drugs and does very nasty things to her. And she loses her shit and kind of just does the whole body modification thing full time in a very dark way. And, it's a very good character building movie for, I'd say, the first half. And then after that, it just feels like, what are we doing?
Okay.
Yeah. And not only that, for a body horror movie, there's not that much body horror to begin with. I would say the most grueling thing we really have is him on the hooks in that one cellar part, but that's really it. I mean, it's an okay movie. It starts off strong, but then it really goes nowhere. And then all the technical problems, the
sound was nuts. Oh my! I think it's a very good movie, but that was actually my second time seeing it. The first time I saw it was probably about 5 years ago now. And I still think it's a very good movie, especially with Catherine Isabel's lead perforance.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it was a bad movie.
You don't have her, you don't have the movie, essentially.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad movie, but it wasn't a great one. It was an okay one at best.
Yeah.
And like I said, the audio issues were not helping.
The sound, there are a lot of ADR obvious moments. The 2 moments I couldn't get over, though, was... there's a scene where she is beating a security guard to death with a pipe, but the Foley sounded like somebody just high-fiving a gym mat. And there was a scene where she was at a bar talking to someone, and it sounded like they forgot to do the post-production mix for it. It just sounded like just the production shotgun mic audio.
Oh.
And nothing else.
Oh.
Sound was not the movie's strongest point, but all the makeup effects were practical, and they were all very good.
When the effects were actually done, they were good, but there wasn't anything really, I guess, over the top in my opinion. I mean,
But I don't think it was aiming for that, though.
No, but I just feel like as a body horror movie, I wouldn't really call it that. Like,
okay.
I don't know what genre I would put this in. It was an okay movie. I feel like they could have done more with it story-wise, or it should have been shorter. Mm-hmm. Like, this movie would have definitely served as better as a short.
Okay.
But yeah, the effects were great when they were there. Like I said, the first half of the movie is good. Other than that, it's just
All right.
Like, nothing really satisfying, nothing to hate. Just, yeah.
Except for the audio.
Well, I can't say I hate it because I have seen worse audio.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I can't say it's, like, terrible, but it's just very noticeable. At least you could still hear and make out what everybody's saying at the very least, which is important.
Yeah. I could think of a few movies.
Yeah, I know what you're talking. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole here, but I know what you're talking about.
I'm looking at a DVD right now.
Yep. Moving on.
Yeah,
so then our friend Justin showed me another horror movie. It's an interesting genre of horror movie, I'd say. It wasn't as body horror as I thought it would be, and I would actually describe this one more as like a coming-of-age horror. It's called Excision. Apparently based on a short film, as I found out later on.
Okay.
Movie based on a short film.
So what it's about is there's this teenage girl going through high school. She has dreams of becoming a surgeon. She's very delusional. She's very into these dreams that she keeps having that are just filled with blood and sex, essentially, in very bizarre ways. In fact, the first scene in the movie, because you said you were uploading our first episode of the podcast, and you wanted to keep an eye on the uploads. Yeah. You said you'll sit that one out and watch American Mary after that. Within 30 seconds, I'm just like, Zach really picked one to sit this one out. It's
blood and tits, and I miss it. God damn it! You could have called and be like, "Hey, just come check this scene out. You'll love it."
Scenes.
Oh.
Scenes.
There was
plural. More. There's more. Let me bring up.
There's a list, folks. There's a list.
There's a screen grab on IMDb where, as soon as I saw it, I was like, "Oh, okay." And you can pass that along to Mark when you're done.
Are they? I already saw that.
Okay, that's okay. I get it.
Keeping in mind, they can only show certain things on a website like that. But yeah, so it's about this girl who has dreams of becoming a surgeon. She has her own delusions. She's picked on at school. She's not very attractive.
Obviously very sexually repressed.
Yeah, which it's actually really amazing makeup job, because when you compare her in her dreams to her in real life, it's like, I'm amazed this is even the same actress, because in the dreams, like, she is freaking beautiful.
Interesting.
So really huge thumbs up to whoever the makeup artist was on that one.
Nice.
It was to the point where I was even questioning if it even was the same actress, but of course it was. She has kind of... her mother just kind of bullies her, essentially. Like, they don't get along. The marriage between her mother and her father is obviously a bad marriage. Her younger sister is suffering through cystic fibrosis, and yeah, it's just her just trying to make her way through this whole family situation. And she goes to this private school that she doesn't care for at all. Like, she doesn't really get along with her teachers or the principal. Her mother makes her see the Catholic priest at the church in lieu of a therapist, which, as they discuss later on, maybe we should send you to an actual therapist.
You don't say.
But it basically, it's basically just like her eventually just trying to get her parents' approval, and at the end it goes to a very, very extreme ending. This movie wasn't just an absolute emotional roller coaster, because it does have that added tinge of, it just sucks being a teenager.
It really does.
And this movie perfectly captures that. Like, it's just you like the main character is obviously delusional,
but it still sucks.
but you still feel for her. You still sympathize with her.
Dude, I'm laughing because and Zach, you'll roll your eyes and everything else, but the fucking Simple Plan came on the radio the other day, and I'm like, wow, it really does suck to be a high schooler.
It does.
Like, this is like this whole, like, that whole band is dedicated to how much it sucks to be a teenager. Like, literally how much it sucks to be a teenager.
Yeah, I mean, the ending is one of those endings where you'll feel all the emotions.
All the feels?
All the emotions. It's like, it's equal parts just upsetting, but you understand her mindset, and just the last moment is just haunting for so many reasons. And this is a movie that I am not going to forget for a very long time.
Like, you know, and everybody, you can't see his face right now, but he's actually genuinely upset about it.
I want to see this movie. Holy shit.
Yeah, it's a very strong movie. The cast is insane.
Who's
like,
in it?
It is full of people that are really only in it for like a few moments at a time. Like, for the most part, it's really just the main girl, her sister, and her two parents. Those are really the only four characters who are actually in it.
All right.
But there are these different actors who are playing teachers or kids in the high school, or just other adults. Like, you've got Matthew Gray Gubler as one of the teachers of Criminal Minds fame. This guy.
Holy shit! It's the nerdy guy from Criminal Minds. No shit.
You've got Jeremy Sumpter in there. You've got John Waters as the Catholic priest.
Wow! I really wouldn't want to see that guy. I really wouldn't.
You've got Malcolm McDowell as one of the teachers.
No kidding.
Yep. Marlee Matlin as one of the administratives at the school.
Wait, refresh my memory.
Marlee Matlin, she is the hearing impaired actress who won an Oscar for Children of a Lesser God.
Oh,
Yeah. Role.
Yeah, you got her face.
She was also one of Jerry's girlfriends in an episode of Seinfeld.
Oh, yeah.
The lip reading episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've got Ray Wise as the principal of, Ray Wise of Twin Peaks fame. Zach, you would probably know him as the devil from Reaper.
Oh, God, he's awesome.
Yeah, he's been in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Jeepers Creepers too.
Oh, yeah. And the cast was just insane. Like I said, most of those people were just in like inconsequential roles, but they do add their little flair to the movie. And nice little surprise, like in the first moments of the movie, you see a phone number written on the telephone, and it has the 703 zip code, which is actually the Northern Virginia zip code, and that's actually where I was born and grew up. So it was kind of interesting to see. No, not the zip code. The area code. The area code. Yeah. Of my childhood there. That was unexpected. But yeah, it is also based on a short film. I was asking one of my friends after the movie, after I watched it, if she had seen it, and she said, yeah, and it was actually based on a short film, and the short film's on YouTube.
This is the main actress?
That is the main actress, yes.
Wow, you're not kidding. She is gorgeous.
So I did look up the short film on YouTube, and it's basically a condensed version of the movie, but the tone is very different. Like, the mother in the movie is very much the antagonist, whereas in the short film, and the marriage in the movie is just a bad marriage. Like, you can just tell right away. Yeah. Whereas in the short film, it is more the neglect for the girl is just incidental, because they're also dealing with a younger daughter who is going through cystic fibrosis and is going to need a lung transplant. Mm-hmm. So it was like the movie was definitely way more mean-spirited. The short film was more, I don't want to say innocent, but sympathetic. I mean, the movie was still sympathetic. Like, the movie was a weird combination of sympathetic and mean-spirited. You just, like, I can't think of any other movie to compare it to. But it really does just capture the feelings of just being a...
Was her dad named Bob?
let me see. Yes.
And everything else. Yeah, and then which is awesome. Robert Bart is in this too. He's been in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Ariel Winter plays the younger sister in the movie of Modern Family fame.
No kidding.
Yep.
Wow. So you really do have an all-star cast with with this one.
Yeah.
It just goes back to proving my point about casting quality actors.
But yeah, even though the movie was made in 2012, I do not want to spoil the ending. I will say the ending in the movie definitely has a much more sinister tone to it, but it still doesn't lessen the emotional impact.
Cool.
Both the short film and the movie have pretty much the same ending. Both are very emotionally resonant for slightly different reasons. But yeah, I was watching this expecting it to be body horror, but it's really more of a coming-of-age horror, and I really don't have a single bad thing to say about it.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah, it's called Excision. If you go to YouTube and type in Excision, EXCISION short film, you will be able to find the original short film.
We'll put the link in there.
Yeah.
We'll put the link in the description below.
But yeah, it was a very pleasant surprise.
That's
highly recommended.
It's fucking fantastic, dude.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's one of those movies. It's one of those horror movies that I don't want to give too much time to this conversation I had a few years ago. We've talked about it amongst ourselves, but I have met people who say horror genres like horror and sci-fi and fantasy can never be great because they can't explore, supposedly can't explore true human emotions. But Excision and another movie that we're going to be talking about later on, Us, those are two movies that just it's those two movies show that horror can provide really emotionally resonant stories that will stay with you forever.
Dozens.
And of course, yeah, it is an endless list.
Dozens. It actually upsets me when that doesn't and everything else. Yeah. I think there's...
Excision is one of those horror movies that transcends the genre, I think.
That's fantastic. Yeah. There are a lot of good things. So, which actually brings me to my question of the podcast. Okay. This I may be answering my question, but is body horror necessary or is it just a gimmick? Because I think that is something that's,
necessary.
Okay, so...
It directly confronts the question of what is human.
Okay.
And just look at the Come Into Me comic that I was talking about earlier and the plot line that launched the body horror of that. We also have social identity with society, and even personal identity with American Mary last night and even Excision. So there are relevant questions that body horror can explore. Videodrome, like the effects of media on us. There's just no shortage of topics that body horror can explore.
I agree.
It's up to the writers and the filmmakers and everybody involved if they're going to actually explore those questions. But body horror is a very interesting and disturbing way to look at it. Even though this movie isn't body horror and it's not horror at all, it's more of a sci-fi comedy. But there is that one element of, I wouldn't call it body horror. I wouldn't call it a body horror scene because you don't see the transformations, but the thought is there. But just think about like the last third of Sorry to Bother You and the questions that whole plot twist brings up. Even though that's not really body horror, the fact is there is a bodily mutation happening, and that is still very well within the realm of what we're talking about here. And just think about the questions that movie brought up.
No, for sure. I think this is an excellent opportunity to, we talked about earlier in this. There's some people that think that there's nothing that can't horror can't convey anything. Horror can't emote the human experience, the human emotion. Yes, I get that there's we're talking about extreme metaphors and extreme situations and everything else, but there's a lot to be learned from that. And and I think the ultimate question is, and you kind of answered it already, but I'm definitely going to ask Zach, is, what do you say to people who say that that's a gimmick? Like, what the fuck was the point of that and everything else? Why am I watching this for the sake of watching this, or is there a fucking point?
I know what I would say to that, but I'll let Zach answer first.
I really don't know how I would respond to that. I mean, I watch it because I enjoy it.
Okay.
Like,
I mean, it's thought provoking, and it is, and there's a lot of people who think that it's a gimmick.
Like, I definitely wouldn't call it a gimmick. Hell no. Like, there's definitely a lot of stuff you can do with body horror, especially on a metaphorical level. But how I would actually respond to that, I don't know. Like I said, my answer is pretty much simple. I just enjoy it. Like, it's just fun to watch. Like, I love seeing people get torn apart.
I love the directness of your answer. My answer is way more smart aleck.
I was about to say, we got the Christopher Nolan.
I was thinking the same thing. I just like it because I like it.
It's really that simple. I like violence. I like blood, guts, gore, all that shit. It's fucking awesome.
I like that stuff too.
I don't really need to look into the deeper meaning of things. I like what I like.
I agree with both of you and everything else. I am actually going to be the douchebag who quotes Batman right now.
Okay.
Oh boy.
People need dramatic examples to shake them out of apathy.
Yeah.
Okay. It really is that true. Like, if you want to get your fucking point across and everything else with situations about society, about how much it sucks to be a teenager and everything else, there are, you need dramatic examples to prove your point a lot of times. Like, yes, it can get to the, you have to respect the intelligence of your audience. I didn't feel that way with that watch. I was constantly beaten over the head.
Well, there was no respect for anything or anybody in society.
There was no respect, period.
That's what I love about it.
That man knew what he was doing when he made that movie.
He was consuming a drug called Fuck It All. Because that's what he was doing. Fuck it all.
Ask your doctor.
Ask your doctor for Fuck It All. But I think that that genre can teach you a lot about life. I love Wes Craven's quote and everything else where he said that within the realm of horror you can discover talk about any topic. You're just gonna have it jump out and grab you every 15 minutes. But I think sometimes that's more effective than the strongest dramatic piece. And there's a lot of really good horror movies, and I know you guys don't consider it a horror, but Silence of the Lambs says a lot and everything else.
Yeah.
Scream says a lot. Cabin in the Woods says a lot. The Exorcist says a lot and everything else. I mean, the 70s horror movies that we saw, the 80s, the 80s horror movies. Halloween said a lot. This shit can happen anywhere and everything else. It's in the middle of nowhere. Psycho said a lot. Some people really love their mothers too much. A
boy's best friend should be his mother, Mark.
Oh God, don't remind me.
And this just got weird.
And it just got weird. But there really is a lot to be learned from that genre. And also for everybody else out there who has a negative response, you never meet a nicer group of people that make horror. You really won't.
Yeah.
You really won't. They're the nicest, sweetest people ever, which is really fucking weird, but it's true.
The reason why is because we get to just let loose. We don't have to give a damn.
No ambitions. Again, ask your doctor about fucking all.
We've already got our catharsis and everything.
Like, one of the best pieces of advice I can give anybody is just to say, fuck it, just don't care. Like, it really makes a whole lot of difference. If you like seeing people get torn apart, go with it, roll with it. It's fucking awesome. There's plenty of movies and games out there where you can watch and or do it. Can we get Manhunt VR, please? Seriously?
It's
actually not a...
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
It really isn't a bad idea.
It's a great idea.
Trust me,
I could actually see that working probably a little too well.
The right amount of well. The right amount of well.
No.
And we will discuss... That will be another podcast where we discuss horror video games, because that's happening. Like, we're not walking away from that. But,
all right, next week's topic, ladies and gentlemen.
Actually, you know what? That's not a bad idea. Next week's topic: horror movie video games.
Just horror video games.
Horror video games.
You mean horror video games?
Yes, that's. And you're never mind. Anyway, go on.
To be fair, both of them. Until Dawn is a horror movie video game.
Fair.
Huh? Fair. Yeah. All right. There we go. The so and Brendan, what would your
So if somebody just tries to be all smart and say it's a gimmick, well, to be fair, movies were born as a gimmick. Like, what movie isn't a gimmick?
Yeah. That's actually insanely true.
Yeah.
And
I know it's kind of a smart alecky answer, but it's totally true. Like, it's a movie without a movie without a gimmick would just be a camera just set up in front of two people talking in a room for an hour and a half. And,
you mean an A24 film?
Shots fired. Yeah. Shots fired. Bravo down. Anyway, no, I hear you on that. So, yeah, I think that answers that question. Gentlemen, talk about the wonderful world of our production life and permits and everything else. I suppose I should talk about that because I'm the one. I'm the asshole on the phone.
Yeah, you're the cliche accountant motherfucker.
And we should probably start with step 1, location scouting.
That's definitely a good thing. Obviously, you need your script done first before you're doing any kind of location scouting.
You should really have your script done before you start doing really anything.
Yes.
It's kind of an essential part that you need to get the foundation built and, build the fucking film.
You at least have beats or something, bro. Like something.
Yeah, I mean...
a general idea. Something.
The amount of movies the amount of projects I've seen that, try to run without having the script finished, or finish the script and decide, you know what, screw this, we're going to throw this out the window and just redo the whole thing just from start to finish. What? We're
gonna burn this whole thing down.
Why? What the fuck are you doing?
This right here was working. You fucked it up.
Done gone, fucked it up.
Still one of my favorite lines from Beverly Hills Cop and everything else. Yo, the lie was working. Y'all fucked up a perfectly good lie. It was working until y'all fucked it up. But yes, always have your script done before you start doing location scouting.
That way you know what you need. Because we had a very set list of requirements we needed for our location that we were scouting for. Obviously, since we haven't shot yet, we're shooting in just under 2 weeks now, so I don't want to talk about script details, but just like the requirements we needed. We needed a 4-way intersection that will look deserted on film, and when you're living in a city like Chicago, that can be very difficult.
There's always something going on.
I don't know how many...
We also needed a bench on the side of the road.
Yes, we also needed a bench. We needed
a street light, a 4-way intersection, and a deserted road.
Yeah.
In Chicago, that doesn't mix very well.
Yeah, especially the deserted part. You can find a lot of stoplights and a lot of benches, but to find some place that's going to be deserted and everything else is next to impossible.
Oh, yeah.
Then again, you also have to be willing to stay out to the ass hours of the night.
It's true. I mean, film's not easy, and if anybody who says for those individuals who think about film and everything, they think, "Oh, that'd be fun." Don't get me wrong, it's a fucking blast and everything else. It really is. But don't kid yourself for a second that it isn't hard work and it isn't a pain in the ass. And I think that's the reason why we're having this conversation, because there's things that people don't realize even have to happen. Location scouting, and then with location scouting comes permits, comes insurance, super, super important things. Yeah. So if you're a fan of movies, appreciate what goes into it. I've been telling people all week and everything else. I've been literally on the phone with the Chicago office for 45 minutes, film office, and then as soon as I got off the phone, I tell anybody who's around me, I was like, hey, next time you see a movie, appreciate it. Appreciate what went into it. I don't care if it's good. Appreciate what went into it. It's... So to give you an idea about what the process actually took place, we had to... When we found the location that we had confirmed, we had to go and contact the Chicago Film Office to research permits. Yeah. We had been told different things about how they operate in the city of Chicago, and obviously we needed to get some clarification. Also, in addition,
Which, if you need clarification, just go straight to the source. That's why they're there.
Yep. And actually, you know what? And big shout out to the Chicago Film Office. Y'all have been nothing but accommodating and very, very nice. We really appreciate it. And it's been a constant email and conversation back and forth. And you got to think about this too as well. You know, if you're a low independent budget, you have to consider, you know, unfortunately, some of your creative decisions get impacted by reality.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to do a scene where we have a whole street available in a big building, but, you know, not only do you need permission from the building owner, you need to hire, police officers from the city to actually close down the street, put barricades on each side, notify every single neighbor that's there,
and business
to actually let them know that we're going to be filming and making a lot of noise.
That parking will be blocked off.
And also the parking will be blocked off, and you need permits for that as well. You need to do that well in advance. And yeah, that's pretty much it with locations. And then also you have to figure out about transportation to get people to those locations.
Yep.
You have to have equipment on standby. You need to, when you're looking at your location, you're like, where can I store all this shit?
And then, of course, with us too, since it's essentially an outdoor shoot, where are we going to charge batteries? Where are we going to have DIT set up?
And we're also at the mercy of the weather, which we've been at the mercy of the weather before. So there is a lot of stuff. Now, that being said, though, please don't think it's not possible, because it is possible. You know,
you just got to plan ahead.
You got to plan ahead. You got to know, what your rules and your regulations are for your certain town. If you don't know, contact your local police department. Not emergency number, of course. I wouldn't recommend calling 911 and asking them about that. They might
get. Dude, let us know how it went.
Yeah, please put that in the comments below. We don't recommend it, but if you do, let us know, because we'd really be interested to hear it. But contact your local police department. Ask them, what entails with with filming and with being on the street. We were lucky with our last shoot. We filmed in my hometown, Algonquin.
Which, because you mentioned weather, I just looked at the forecast for our filming days. As of right now, we're just looking at sun and clouds. Hopefully that stays.
Fingers crossed. I had to contact the village of Algonquin when we were filming, and I had to ask them about being on the street.
Yep.
I talked to several of the community officers that were out there, and they were nothing but nice. A big thing is when you call these people,
they are there to help.
They really are there to help, and they really are that. And by the way, film is one of those things that always sparks curiosity with people. So it's no matter what, most of the time when you call those people, they're going to be interested in what you're doing and engaged in what you're doing. I mean, I called the community officer, and he's like, well, "What are you guys doing?" And I'm like, "Well, it's an independent short that we're doing. We're just going to be filming on the block and everything else." "Oh, that's really, really cool. Thank you so much for calling. Here's what's going on." It turns out that there was no actual film permit and everything else. There would only be a cost if we needed to close down the street, but we played it like old school stickball. And if we needed a car to move, car.
And only one person got mad for reasons we don't understand, because she could have easily gone around the damn car.
That wonderful tracking shot in the first episode, in the first few minutes of the episode.
Improvised tracking shot
due to weather concerns. We hopped in the back in my car, and we used our walkie-talkies to communicate, and we had Wes
on a camera.
On a camera in the back, and we just followed the kid on the sidewalk. Ended up working out real good. We had other things planned. We had a bike, we had a sunset, we had a bunch of stuff planned that just did not work out.
No.
Sorry, Brandon. He was really looking forward to it.
I was really looking forward to the sunset shot.
I know you were, but we'll get it. I promise we will get it. But yeah, it really is a step-by-step process and everything else. But if you do want to get, once you've figured out your location, contact your local police department or your film office. If you're in a major city, chances are they do have a film office, but you are in a suburb, contact your community officer. They should be able to provide you with that information on what will go into, locking down a film permit, and then also locking down what the rules and regs are and what the cost is. Yeah. So, but again, like Brandon said, plan ahead. Be nice to the people that that you're trying to communicate with, and it will go a long way. It really will. They are there to help, but it'd be awesome. I don't know.
And don't be a dick.
I think that's rule one.
That's rule number one for really any situation, not just film work.
Yeah.
Just anything.
So that's the plan, and then also big. You know what, man? I'm actually gonna give a. They're not sponsoring us, but they're awesome. I'm gonna give a non-paid sponsor shout out to our liability insurance company app. What's the name of the app?
I have
Verifly.
Verifly.
There we go.
Thank
Verifly.
you.
That's it.
Verifly actually provides day rates for liability insurance up to $1 million.
Which is what you would need for these
permits.
And even also for don't quote me on this one, but I believe that's also the kind of insurance you need for most equipment rentals.
Correct, and then also most national parks as well.
Yeah.
I found out. So $1 million is pretty standard. It's actually pretty cool. You can do, like I said, individual days, weeks, months,
hours.
Even hours.
Even had an hourly.
Yeah, even had an hourly for coverage.
It's the only affordable way to get insurance for people who are,
people like us, where
we don't have billions of dollars.
One out of the three of us doesn't have a 9-to-5 job.
Even that has its problems. Anyway, but it really is an awesome tool, especially for pretty much anybody that's doing any kind of independent contract work. It's definitely an excellent tool to have.
There's a lot of options on there for artists, plumbers, and a few other things that they'll like. There's a plethora of options on there. Go check it out.
Event coordinator, and also my big shtick is, and as much as we don't want to think about those type of things, and we don't want to add the extra cost, get liability insurance. It's super important, man. Like, you never know what's going to happen on your set.
I would rather have it and end up not needing it than need it and not have it. Because that is a whole storm of
crap.
Yeah.
Litigation and other problems. Even if you do have people signing waivers, that doesn't protect the homeowners. It doesn't protect anybody else. That doesn't protect you against anybody else that wanders into your set that hasn't signed a liability waiver. So we highly recommend it. We'll put a link in the description below for a.
We're apparently going to have a lot of links in this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. So just
that's fun. Go nuts, folks. And everything else, but it's definitely an awesome app. Check it out.
We'll see how much of these we actually remember to put in.
So
I'm taking notes.
Yay! He doesn't have to call me in 2 days and say, "Hey, Mark, what was that one thing that you said?" I don't know.
Remember, Mark loves elevators.
Oh God, I really don't. And everything else. I hope you all enjoyed that episode and everything else. It was a fun experience.
I'm sure it was.
But yeah, that's my greatest gist with with setting up locations and everything else. Zack Zacchamus, anything to add on the locations?
Prep your shit.
Yeah, and I don't think Zach and I have anywhere near as much to talk about with permits and locations as you do, because most of our work these past couple weeks have been about setting up auditions and shot lists and getting equipment together.
Yeah.
So we can cover that in one of the coming weeks, what goes into all that.
Let's do auditions next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Auditions and talent. I think I can definitely add an interesting perspective of that as well.
Yep.
Yeah, considering you've been on both ends.
I've been.
Really, what have you done to put you on the other end of auditions?
Just a few acting roles here and there. No big deal.
You can act?
I can. I can act.
Do a Mickey Mouse impression.
Show me your Oscar.
I don't need one of those. I actually have talent.
I went straight to the jugular on that one.
I don't need one of those. I have talent. You don't need talent to get one of those anyway. You just have to be politically connected.
Yep.
Or play a real person.
Yeah, or never go full retard. That's important too.
Oh, Tropic Thunder.
At least that was funny.
I love Tropic Thunder so much. Anyway, but no, it's cool. It's an interesting experience for me because I've been on both sides of the table, so to speak, and I'll actually have both perspectives. So tune in next week. As always, thank you so much. Please subscribe, like.
Oh, we're not done, Mark.
What? We're not done.
Not done.
Surprise.
Nope, I'm cutting it here.
Nope. We all saw a movie the other night.
I totally forgot. We gotta talk about us.
Yeah. What does us tell us about us?
Yo, dog, I got your themes with your themes with your themes.
No.
Please?
No.
Please?
No. We talked about this, Zach.
The safe word is pineapple juice.
It's always pineapple juice or pineapples. So anyway, us is definitely a mindfuck and a half.
I mean, I've already described a couple stories today. Zach described one. Mark, it's your turn. What is us about?
Us, Us is the story of a typical, suburban family that comes to a family vacation, and which seems pretty normal for the most part, and then chaos ensues where essentially doubles of themselves show up and start attacking, and
it becomes a home invasion movie.
Very much, and then
it becomes more than a home invasion movie.
And then you have themes with your themes. So spoiler alert.
Yeah, we're gonna do spoilers.
Yeah,
and that's why we saved it for last. So if somebody doesn't want spoilers, they can stop here. But if somebody wants our
if they haven't already stopped 15 minutes ago,
have you even made it up to this point?
Because bravo for you if you have.
Yeah, especially with all of our talk of body horror and what is and isn't porn. But yeah, I say, have at it, Mark.
Well, you know what though? I need to see it again. At face.
All right, let's do it.
All right. So at the service and everything else, it's a fantastic horror thriller movie. In a deeper level, it definitely challenges your perspectives. The cool part about it is it's a Rorschach test of a movie.
Yeah. I believe Jordan Peele has said that even though he does have a set mind on what the themes are about, he did want to present it in a way that the movie will mean something different to different people.
Well, you know what though? It's...
In fact, if I'm not mistaken, even like the earliest, very first teaser poster for it was essentially an ink blot. I'm going to find it right here just to make sure I'm correct.
Fair enough. There's actually, funny enough, I've talked with friends and talked with read.
Yeah, the very first teaser.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah,
it literally looks like one of those ink blots.
There's a lot to be talked about with like the Shadow Realm, and a lot of people believe that there's an alternative alternate universe within a mirror. Mm-hmm. When you look in the mirror and everything else, you're not seeing a reflection. You're seeing literally another world on the other side of the mirror, and there's a lot of that in this, about a different side of your personality, and different things that you want that you would never admit to tell anybody. There's a lot of that in there. There's also a lot about the id and the ego and the super ego within that. Obviously the people from the shadow world are the id, and the people above are the ego.
Well,
and the
they're not really
ego.
from a shadow world. They're actually
from underground.
Literally underground.
Literally underground. In their
what I guess is a supposed government experiment where they're trying to create essentially clones of all of us used to control us, but it just backfired, so they abandoned the experiment.
Correct.
And they're just all down there with nothing.
Correct. And there's a lot to be said about the Jekyll and Hyde syndrome of repressing our negative and our violent tendencies and our pessimistic tendencies for a positive outlook, even though now, funny enough, and I think, I don't know what Jordan was trying to share with this, but in the end, the negativity kind of won. In that kind of world.
Did it though?
It didn't. It didn't. I mean,
it really all depends on how you see it.
On a macro level, yes. On a micro level, no. I don't know,
because the people in the tunnels are essentially oppressed.
Correct.
And they were able to rise above their situation in the end.
They were.
So and we've definitely had our conversation about the twist at the end, But the twist really does make you ask, okay, in the grand scheme of the story, who is really the hero and who is really the villain? And not just who in a singular sense, but who in a majority sense, a societal sense.
Well, and those lines are very, very blurred in today's society. Mm-hmm. They really, really are. And I was gonna say something too, and I totally forgot what it was. But there's a lot. There's a lot of fucking shit in this movie.
A lot of stuff going on.
There's a lot of shit that's going on in this movie. Actually, funny enough, I was gonna tell you about this too. I made almost a little bit of parallels to Mad Men.
Okay.
Of
outside of the fact that there's an actress shared.
Yes, correct. But of the fake persona. Mm-hmm. And the constant fear that the person that you're pretending to be somebody else will be exposed, and that fear and how people do that every day.
Yeah,
they pretend to be somebody that they're not and everything else, and they're in constant fear that person, and that's really, I think that that whole about the id and the superego and the Jekyll and Hyde and the shadow realm and the mirror thing and everything else. There's sides of our personality that we shun. Some people more than others, and some people just reinvent themselves altogether. But eventually, in a lot of cases, that who you originally were will fucking come and catch up to you. And again, wow, talk about horror movies using a very excellent metaphor. Yes, in this case, people die and everything else, but funny enough, it's eventually your real personality coming out. Who you really are coming out versus who you pretend to be.
Yeah. And that's very apparent in the final 10-15 minutes of us.
Correct. And and I actually saw it in the whole part where with ironically enough, it's actually because Peggy's in it, and that's the reason why I thought of Mad Men. When their whole family gets wiped out and everything else, this is, who they were pretending to be, and this is more of who they actually are. These other twins of theirs are actually who they really are. It's
actually a nice, neat little parallel that whole family got axed, whereas the main family, all of them survived.
Yeah, there's something to be said about that. And
the family that survived is the more genuine family, and of course, and major spoiler alert, but I think we've been very clear about that. The mother is one of those underground people that they switched when they were children, but she is still those kids' mother.
Correct.
So she definitely does have that violent side in her, as we saw, but is she really a villain? I mean, does the fact that she came from underground make her a villain? Correct. Or is she still the hero of the story? And that's really up to the viewer, I think.
And I had a conversation with a few people recently about the education system and everything else, and I think this is a really good, interesting thing. I remember the line she said to her and everything. She said, "Why couldn't you take me with you?"
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's very systematically broken in our society, especially in the educational system, is binary thinking. It's ones and zeros. It's a yes or no. It's an A or a B and everything else. So she was essentially thinking binary. I need to win. If in order for me to win, you need to lose.
Yeah.
I need to choke you out and everything else and switch you in order for me to survive.
Her success is basically built on
her tearing
somebody else down.
But the funny thing about that is it didn't need to happen that way. Yeah. It didn't happen that way at all. Like, they could have just walked out together, and then that would have been the end of it. Like, they, yes, it would have been fucking tough to explain what the fuck happened. That would have been an awkward car ride home. But
that's a whole new movie.
That's a whole new movie. But but I think as a, I hear a lot of these younger kids and everything else. And I make myself sound so old, but they always come with this mentality of looking at very successful people and saying, man, why don't you move over and let the rest of us eat? That person's success has nothing to do with your success.
Yeah.
You can be successful while they be successful. Binary thinking does nothing for people and everything else. And I think this and actually, in fact, binary thinking does more damage than anything else. Literally, the damage is evident of that decision. You know what though, and I can't get too upset because she was a fucking child when she made that decision, and that's another theme too, by the way, of of consequences of decisions you make when you're barely cognizant to actually make those decisions. That's a whole nother thing, but it causes more damage to think that way and to act that way than to actually just either one, take somebody with you, or let it be. Mm-hmm. Not only could she have gone with her,
she could have just gone back.
No, not even gone back. She could have just walked out. She could have just walked out the front door. She didn't even have to walk with. They didn't even have to be in each other's lives. She could have just walked away. Any situation besides being a slave in the basement and everything else would have been better. All she had to do was walk away. And there's a lot of movies that do that too. All you had to do is walk away.
Just walk away.
She didn't have to become part of her life and everything else. They didn't have to, be twins and sisters in life. They didn't have to, none of that had to happen. It would have been wonderful if it happened. That would have been awesome and everything else. But they could have just gone separate ways. She could have realized, holy shit, there's a whole nother world up here. I just walk away. But instead, you made that choice because you were thinking with your id rather than your ego or superego. You're thinking with your id that I need to kill this person in order for me to survive. And that's the environment that you were in. But it's the wrong environment. It's the wrong mentality. And that's a whole nother problem with the society at large, is to think in order for me to win, you have to lose. And that's why, and I think everybody life's a game and everything else. No, life's life and a game is a fucking game. Yes, you can take principles from a game and apply them to life, but it ain't fucking black and white. Right now, there's people that are more successful than me in this industry. But there's also people that are less successful than me, that haven't found guys like you that I can do this shit with. I'm not concerned with what they're doing, and I'm not concerned with what they're doing. I'm concerned with what I'm doing. It's why they put blinders on fucking racehorses and everything else, so they can see forward. Because if they look to the left, to the right, they're going to fucking fall over. I'm not concerned with what's going on, and it would be a disservice of me to be concerned about whether or not that person loses. And don't get me wrong, I'm down for some healthy competition and everything else. Let's have a good time. Let's go back and forth. But at the end of the day and everything else, I'm gonna leave the game. I'm gonna leave the game as a game. When I go home and everything else, if I'm in a set or I'm at a job and everything else, when all that happens, you guys are still my friends.
Yeah.
And and that's more important than everything else. Once we leave the film set and everything else, we've accomplished the goal that we're going to accomplish. That's it. We've done what we wanted to do. We've done what we love to do and everything else, and that's it. And there's fun attached to it. There's skill attached to it. But when that becomes your whole life and everything else, that ideology of I need to beat everyone around me. I need to be the best and everything else. I need to be the best. I have an ego to fill and everything else. You missed the fucking point.
Yeah.
You missed the fucking point about life. And that's the real tragedy about all of that and everything else, is that they could have both been a very positive influence in each other's lives. They could have not even been in each other's lives altogether. It could have been that one moment that she just blacks out. And everything else, I saw my twin, or the other one.
Yeah, that one was something funny happened when I was a kid.
And then that would have been the end of it. But because of that mentality, and because of the world that she came from, which is a product, and a lot of people are products of their environment, and everything else. But at the end of the day, though, Morpheus was right, man. Life begins with choice.
Yeah.
The fucked up part is, though, that choice was made when she was a fucking child. And I think that's even more tragic, that she had to make a life decision that basically destroyed another human being. When she was a fucking child. And I imagine that, I think I'll view this on a different level and everything else, as in something I wasn't going to look for, but now I am going to look for it. I said I'm going to look forward looking at it as a revenge story on that side, but I'm also going to look at it as a guilt story on this side. How guilty is she?
Yeah, that's both those ways are how I looked at when we saw it, because that was my second time seeing it, and literally everything just takes on a whole new meaning. For me, probably the handcuffs in particular took on a whole new meaning for me on the second time.
Yeah, they'll definitely, yeah. Well, you fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. It's, and there's a lot of stuff with that. Hey, you know what though, man, it really does. The more I think about it, it really does parallel Mad Men.
Yeah.
Your whole life is based on that lie. All your kids are based on that lie. Your husband's based on that lie. Your whole, your wealthy upbringing, your childhood, everything that happened to you is based on a lie. So it's a very, very turmoil way to live.
And on that, Zach, what did you think of Us? Tough act to follow, Mark.
Sorry, guys. Sorry, Zach. I kind of. He's like, well then, I guess I'm gonna go fuck myself then.
This is gonna be the whole, the whole cerebral thing, and then Zach, I liked it.
Brandon, shut up. That's not what I'm gonna say. I enjoyed it. I mean, it was a fun movie. Zach
will never look at listen to Good Vibrations the same way.
Like,
the use of music in the movie was.
Alexa, call the police. Now,
Alexa, stop.
Oh, sorry. Oh, shit. He actually has an Alexa in here. Sorry. I was just reading a line from the movie. Sorry.
It was Ophelia in the movie.
Ophelia. Oh, yeah, that's right. Ophelia, call the police. Now playing Fuck the Police by NWA.
I just want to point out, everybody was watching him as this motherfucker danced throughout the theater. He
to both Beach Boys and NWA.
No. Beach Boys, he was calm. He enjoyed it, but he was calm. NWA comes out, and he's fucking all over his chair.
Well, dude,
the people behind us, the people in front of us, people at the left side of the theater. I'm just sitting here watching him in the theater, just watch him. And it's like...
I was very into the scene. It was a lot of fucking fun.
It's one of the best scenes in the movie.
It is one of the best scenes in the fucking movie. Like, you will definitely, you won't look at a putter quite the same anymore.
No.
Yeah,
you won't look at a lot of things the same way.
No, you really won't. Movie. Or a boat motor.
No. Yeah.
Really? You took that for the boat motor for you guys?
No, the boat motor was great. But... Yeah, no, it definitely was. You know what though? But that's. I wasn't being overly disturbing and everything else for people. I was having fun, and that scene is actually a lot of fucking.
It is a fun movie. As serious as it is still a fun movie.
There are there are a lot of moments that do not take it seriously, and they are very self-aware about the absurdity of the situation, and it really, especially. The guy who plays the husband and everything else, he just knocks it out of the fucking park.
Well, he was the best part of the movie.
He was such a dad.
Oh my god, the dad jokes were on a level 10. Like oh no, I'm sorry. These speakers go to 11 for the dad jokes. Like, it was crazy how many dad jokes there were. The orchestratic version of I Got Five on it at the very end with the dance and everything else was great.
Which that originally was not going to be in the movie.
Really?
That was originally made just for the trailer, but people responded to it so well that Peele added it to the final showdown at the end.
Why the hell not, man?
It worked really well.
It worked fantastic, and it looked great too.
Yeah.
You know what, dude? And actually,
that whole final confrontation was just a masterpiece of editing.
I love it when she hits the fucking owl. With the,
with
the golf club.
In the House of Mirrors.
In the House of Mirrors.
At the very beginning, the owl pops out.
Oh yeah, just BAM! But no, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a film. It's definitely what film's about, which is enjoying it, but also being able to talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I have a hint for anybody and everything else. If you're still talking about a film, 24 hours after it came out, and you're still discussing it and everything else, it had an impact on you.
Yeah.
I would, most of the time I'd like to say it was good, and I kind of want to say it, but there are a lot of movies that are very bad and you're still talking about them 24 hours later. Trust me, there's plenty of them. But that movie had an impact, and actually, more importantly, it did its job, which is making you feel something.
And it makes you look at the world around you in a different way.
Of course, it's perspective, and that's exactly what film's supposed to do. It's supposed to give you a different perspective. Make you laugh, make you cry, make you think. That's my whole thing about why I act. I want to, one of them's selfless and one of it's selfish. I get an adrenaline buzz off of creation, and then the other part is I want to give something to an audience. Make them laugh, make them cry, make them think, make them, understand a different perspective, or more importantly, make them just fucking enjoy something for, an hour and a half and everything else, and recharge their batteries and everything else from their life. That's super fucking important too. That's a huge part of what we do.
Yeah.
So, but Zach, any other thoughts on the one besides you liked it?
It was a good movie.
I'm surprised you're not mentioning the Jaws references. Or there's a VHS tape that was in the opening shot that I'm surprised you didn't nudge me about.
It wasn't part 2, okay?
I have both Chud and Chud 2 on the Blu-ray shelf.
For the record, he can't get rid of Chud 2, and we won't allow him
I've tried
to
give it away. Nobody will take it.
It's because it has the world's greatest theme song.
It is a oddly terrible, but
satisfying.
No, it's there.
It's something.
It's like that uncle that won't leave.
Ooh. Ooh. By the way, did you also catch that homeless guy looked an awful lot like fucking Jeepers Creepers? Is that the only one who saw that?
That's just you, I think.
All right,
that's a far-fetched one, buddy.
I'll let you think that.
I will.
If that brings you happiness, Mark, I will let you think it.
Oh, thank you, Brandon. I appreciate it.
No, I want to tear it away. It's not true.
But no, it definitely got some themes on your themes, man. Like it is a Rorschach test and a half. It is whatever you want it to be. If you want it to be a statement about oppressed societies, bam, it is. If you want it to be a fun thriller, bam, it is. If you want it to be about dark personas of your personality, bam, it is, and everything. There's plenty. A revenge story, bam, it is. It's not until not until after you watch it and everything else you figure it out, but it is all those things and more.
I don't call it a perfect movie.
I wouldn't call it a perfect movie.
No, it's not perfect.
It's not perfect, but damn, isn't it not really fucking good?
Yeah.
And honestly, it's one of the few horror movies in the last decade that I would be remiss if it didn't show up at the Oscars in some way or form.
And for me, it's so far this year, this is the movie to beat. As far as my opinion goes,
we're still in early.
We're not even halfway through the year.
I don't count January and February.
Nobody does. Glass came out in January, and I really liked it.
Okay, all right.
What else has come out this year?
Not really a lot.
We saw Battle Angel, which we enjoyed. Happy Death Day 2.
Battle Angel was a really good movie.
That was surprisingly really good.
Actually, you know what was a really good movie? Happy Death Day 2.
Yeah.
That was a fun one. It wasn't as fun as it could have been.
I was hoping it would be a lot more goofy, but it was still a very enjoyable sequel.
It was.
But yeah, of all the movies I've seen this year so far, Us is the one to beat. I'll be surprised if at the end of this, since it's 2019, it's essentially it is the end of the decade at the end of this year. I'll be surprised if Us is not in my top 10 horror movies of this decade.
I I wouldn't put it. I remember thinking about it, and
like it's definitely gonna be up.
I was gonna say this hasn't been a strong decade for horror. Well,
but there are some very strong ones.
I'd say up until the past, like maybe. Yeah, I don't know. It's been a very hit or miss.
One of the Conjuring was 2010, right?
Conjuring was
no, it was 2013.
Yeah,
I was gonna say.
Okay.
Yeah, it was definitely.
Yeah, that would be my top 10 of the decade.
Yep, but we'll discuss that in December.
Yes, indeedy, we will. I'll probably be sitting my ass here.
Yeah,
I was here last year watching Cabin in the Woods.
Yep.
It was a good time.
It was a good time.
That was a great time. It was the quietest New Year's I've ever been a part of.
Yeah.
But it was probably one of the best ones.
It's up there. It's definitely in my top 10.
I see what you did there.
Top 5.
Top 2?
Top 5.
Top 1?
I was gonna say I've had some pretty damn good New Year's experiences. That I don't know if I'd put that in my top 10, but it was a good one.
I've gotten laid on a couple times in New Year's, so sorry, man. I'm gonna put those in the top 10 list. Sorry, brother.
Happy New and okay.
And I'm sleeping. Anyway,
we just finished.
Nice.
No, we're still.
Okay. I thought I saw you press the button.
No,
I
was adjusting the.
Oh, okay. All right. So I thought you really finished. Anyway, but yeah, no, I highly recommend it. Please go and watch us. Support the movie. Pay the money to go and see it. It is worth the ticket price.
And I even said it on Facebook after I saw it. Movies like Us are the reason why horror has been, and always will be the greatest genre of storytelling.
It's a strong contender of quality. You know what? And this is the reason why too. You know, it's set out to tell its story and to be a good movie first, and it just happens to be in the horror movie genre.
Yeah.
And that's I think is super important. And that's why I tell everybody the best superhero movies are usually something first before they're a superhero movie. You know, Dark Knight, crime drama, and everything else before it's a superhero movie. Deadpool, comedy, romance, revenge movie, then a superhero movie.
But yeah, I think that about does it for this week for the Nightmares podcast. As always, give us a like, give us a subscribe.
Please.
Yeah, we can't wait to bring even more horror goodness to the world.
Horror goodness.
We're working on it.
We're working on it.
Yeah.
Please watch out for any updates that we have coming up. Obviously, please go ahead and take a look at our Facebook page, and then we should have
Facebook at Living Nightmares Official.
Thank you. And then we should have our Instagram set up.
Well, it's set up at some point in our life.
Yeah, Zach, when are we getting our Instagram set up?
I don't know. I'm not an Instagram guy, so
it
chose the wrong person for this.
It'll be up soon enough. But as always, thank you so much for listening and watching and subscribing and all that wonderful stuff. And you all have a wonderful evening. Later.
Bye.
Damn it, Zack.